You guys are probably familiar with Kent Hovind, right? He has this seminar series that he did. He's this famous young earth creationist nutcase. Well, years ago, I think in 2006, he got in trouble with the IRS for not paying taxes for 30 years, something that he bragged about. Literally bragged about this to the New York Times. Sovereign citizen stuff, claimed he didn't have to because his money belonged to God and all this other insane stuff. His jail phone calls leaked. Well, leaked may not be the right word. They were included as part of the record in his court case because he said some very illegal things on the phone calls between his family and himself while he was in jail. And of course, they monitor those phone calls. So they used them in court, and that's how we have access to them today. There were like 30 minutes worth of phone calls, but I just want to glance through some of the most interesting moments. I wrote this program that basically goes through a video and analyzes it for certain like keywords that I'm looking for, anything related to the IRS or lies or whatever other thing. It tells me which sections contain certain words and stuff like that. So we're going to use this program I wrote. I call it Clippy, because I'm downloading clips with it and stuff. Anyway, let's look through a little bit of this. All right. It says there's something interesting right at the start here. Check this out.
Should we go on the offense? Should we file a criminal complaint against the IRS and file a tick-tick complaint and start the whole thing over again?
No, I don't think you need to do that because we've already done it. We can simply.
So he says, should we go on the offense and file a criminal complaint against the IRS? Dude literally didn't pay taxes for 30 fucking years and is blaming everybody around him for this. He went to jail for 10 years for this. If he had just paid restitution or made a deal with the IRS or whatever, he could have maybe just not even gone to jail, but he chose to be difficult and lie and cover shit up and twist things around. And he wouldn't even submit a guilty plea or a non-guilty plea without saying under duress. Like he was such a sovereign citizen douchebag.
What do you call it? I'm trying to think of the term. Continuous, in other words, add to it.
Well, I think
what we've already done.
We're sitting here worried what they're going to do next, and we really should be on the offense. I mean, they broke so many laws. They didn't follow their own procedure.
The IRS didn't. This is the exact same strategy that Scientology used, harassing IRS agents personally, filing charges against them, and all kinds of stuff.
And maybe another criminal complaint with the federal court. I think
good job.
Yeah, I think there's real close to zero chance they're going to come seize anything.
Really?
Yeah, that's what all the attorneys say too. There's zero chance they can do it legally.
That's a lie. They seized all kinds of shit. I think they seized like $400,000 worth of stuff or something.
Yeah.
Now, can they do it actually? Well, take a look at what they've done so far. I mean, quite obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
About the only thing we got going for us is Scott Snyder is a little bit afraid that I will sue him.
Yeah.
And I will.
Amen.
I'll do it again. And the rest of his life. If he doesn't start obeying the law, I'm going to haunt him the rest of his life.
I hope you do.
Just going to keep, because he needs to obey the law. He's got a badge. Okay, so what, Obey the law then,
This guy talking about obeying the law of all people. I mean, oh my God, dude. He did some real vile stuff too. If you don't know who he is, let me just check this out. I just released a video about it on my main channel the other day. If you want to take a look about him protecting pedophiles and a bunch of other stuff. He also likes to sue the shit out of people, obviously, so I have to be careful and make sure everything that I say is absolutely 100% accurate. It's very important that everything that I say is accurate. Check this out. This is April 17th, 2023. The Daily Beast released this article. Creationist theme park pal charged with child sex abuse. Again, a conspiracy theorist at the center of controversy over creationist theme park has been arrested for alleged sexual assault of a 9-year-old, dude. Oh my God. Christopher Lynx Jones, 55, was arrested late last month in Aiken, South Carolina, the Aiken Standard first reported. An arrest warrant shows Jones charged with criminal sexual conduct with a minor under 14. Jones was previously convicted of battery and lewd acts on children in California. Again, Kent Hovind defended this guy, and it led to this whole big thing where people didn't want to work with Hovind anymore. They didn't want to be at Dinosaur Adventureland anymore, which, by the way, is a complete and total cult. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Jones' California criminal record created rifts at Dinosaur Adventureland, a creationist theme park where Jones is friends with head preacher Kent Hovind, and where Jones has been accused of sexually abusing a boy. Hovind and Jones have blamed the previous conviction on a plot to silence Jones for what he claims was his work with InfoWars founder Alex Jones. Hovind told the Daily Beast that Jones is still welcome at Dinosaur Adventureland, despite the new charges. Quote, I've known Chris for many years, Hovind told the Daily Beast. He gets accused of things all the time, but everybody gets their day in court. I don't know the details on that, the charges, end quote. Hovind, who spent 9 years in prison for tax avoidance, runs the DAL Park in Repton, Alabama. The park is advertised as family-friendly, featuring playgrounds, animals, and a scene center that claims that humans and dinosaurs shared the Earth mere thousands of years ago. Former DAL workers, Dinosaur Adventureland, some of whom lived at the park, have accused Hovind of enabling a culture of impunity for Jones and for other close friends who allegedly abused drugs, stole money, and killed a dog on or near DAL property. Hovind was also convicted of domestic violence in 2021, a ruling he is appealing. Yeah, I actually covered that a bit on my main channel video about him too, so I'm not going to dive into that too much. Person's name was Cindy Lincoln. It's his third wife, I believe. Just really disgusting stuff. Just a disgusting human being, truthfully. So that's who we're dealing with. Now let's just glance through some of these calls a little bit more here. Let's jump to 339. It apparently gets kind of interesting here.
By the way, guys, check out my new shop, owenmorgan.com/shop. I have a bunch of really cool designs on there.
Get this acquittal and leave them alone. If I don't get the acquittal, if they end up putting me in prison, I think I'm going to have to start suing them and making their life miserable legally. You know, they've done so many things wrong. You know, I don't want to fight them, but I kind of like, you know, Nehemiah. I'm just trying to build a wall. You know, leave me alone, I'm going to get a sword, you know.
I don't want to fight them. Leave me alone. I'm going to get a sword. I am going to fight them is the bottom line here. Seriously, he's a cult leader. And when cult leaders use this type of language, we should be concerned.
I would never do anything violent with them, but I'm sure they sure need to be sued. I guess I don't understand how suing them is going to help, but
It feels like he knows that they're listening, right? And he wants them to hear these veiled threats.
well, Scott Snyder needs to be fired. Okay, he doesn't know how to obey the law. He doesn't understand what his position is. He's got a badge and a gun, and he thinks he's God. He needs to get. You know, I sent him all kinds of letters telling him, Scott, here's what the law says your position is, you know. He doesn't care. And the court's not going to enforce it, not this court anyway. Here first. Yeah. IRS has a very legitimate place in our government.
The IRS has a legitimate place in our government, he says.
They serve a very legitimate purpose. You know, I'm not against. And they keep calling me a tax protester in these documents. Man, that makes me angry.
Well, he is, of course. Again, he bragged about not paying for 30 years. He's proud of that fact. He is a tax protester. He's a sovereign citizen nutcase.
But I'm not. They are the tax protesters. They don't.
I'm not the tax protester. The IRS is the tax protester. Okay. What?
Like the laws the way they're written. So they enforce them the way they want them to be written, you know? I don't know if because we filed so many lawsuits in the past against them, that possibly Snyder and Heldmeyer are afraid that if they don't keep pushing, they'll be sued for all the wrong they've done. And that may be the case.
Here, this is an interesting spot. Apparently 1741. Let's jump to this one. He's talking about his legal team. He didn't have a legal team, apparently. He didn't call any witnesses to the stand, nothing. I mean, full-blown sovereign citizen garbage.
Because, number one, they're not employees by the definition of the term. They're not earning wages by the definition of the term. And I don't have an agreement.
Okay, here's what happened. This is what got him caught. They were structuring. It's called structuring, where the banks have to report to the IRS every time $10,000 or more is moved, you know, to a different account, withdrawn, deposited, whatever. Because it's a large sum of money, and, you know, they just have to keep track of it. Like, that's all there is to it. So the mafia famously would do things like structuring, where they would withdraw smaller amounts, like $9,000, and then, like, the next day they'd come and take out 9,000 more, and then 9,000 more. And they would pay their employees with that money. And that's what Kent Hovind was doing. He withdrew, I think it was two $7,000 deposits, maybe, where he deposited 2 checks around $7,000 each, and it tipped off the bank and the IRS to what he was doing. And his claim afterward was, we were just taking the money out and, giving it to these guys down here at Dinosaur Adventureland and having them run down to Lowe's and pick up some lumber so that we could build onto this, whatever. We weren't structuring anything. You know how he says. That is wild, right? I can't believe the guy was so brazen as to come out to the New York Times and brag about it.
So I've had a lot of tax professionals look at this, even paid people. I paid an IRS enrolled agent. I paid a tax attorney.
Why is he saying this to like his wife or whatever? Well, this is the kind of thing you bring up in court.
And I forget who else. A regular attorney. The tax attorney, IRS enrolled agent, and CPA. And I sent them everything we're doing. I said, am I breaking the law? I got back from each of them a 10 or 12-page letter saying, no, you're doing fine. This is perfectly legal.
Really?
So I just think, just because the government has decided I'm a tax protester, I don't want that image out there, because though I probably would have been in the revolution throwing the tea in the harbor, but I want to go fight creation evolution. I don't have time to fight these guys, and I don't want to be involved. There are tax protesters. I know some of them. I think what they're doing is probably good.
Wow, that's so fascinating, dude. I think what they're doing is probably good. So you are a tax protester. I mean, if you agree with the position and you're refusing to pay taxes, that sounds like tax protester to me.
But it's not me. Neither the IRS nor any person has ever been able to point out one specific law that Ken Hovind or the church ministry has violated.
Oh, he violated all kinds of shit. Again, he spent 10 years in jail, dude.
They're desperately trying to hang on to this case, and it's just so obvious. They lied, they broke the law, and I'm not guilty, and so now what are they doing? It's going to look really bad to let me out.
Yeah, they don't want to be embarrassed. That's why you have to spend 10 years in prison, in federal prison, because, they don't want to look bad, totally.
I'm sorry, that's what they had to do in Act 16, to let the guys out.
Yeah.
After they beat him, So, okay, they beat me, they embarrassed me, they had me all over the news media. Now, get me out of here.
Yeah.
And I still think Scott Snyder is way outside his delegated authority. And
I believe that was the guy that the IRS agent that was going after him.
I wish he would show me that he's not. That's all he would have to do is just answer my questions,
This is a criminal investigation, Kent. You aren't the one asking the questions.
Well, yeah, I'm just looking for, the whole thing seems so unjust. I still don't know what I did wrong.
Really? You don't? Still? I wonder if he still says that to this day. Probably not, right?
And I am a staff evangelist. Can the church appeal to the court saying, hey, release our staff evangelist regardless of all this other stuff? Can I type a response?
If I have to. I typed my response.
I think, is this Joe? I believe this is Joe Hovind, who also served time in jail. I think she only got 4 years, maybe? I could be wrong there. She was the one that cashed the checks or whatever, deposited, that drew attention in the first place. And she was kind of just as much of a scumbag in a lot of ways.
Me and Lindsay, I'm printing this out for Ken is what I print.
Oh, okay. Lindsay, I think you misunderstand. The rule of law is the Constitution, which says crimes in Florida should be tried in Florida, not in a federal court.
Oh my God, dude. This is sovereign citizen. He says, what, do you think there's no federal court? You think the federal government has no enforcement mechanism or something? What? God, it's so wild. It's like the way he views the world is just backwards in so many ways. It's not just young earth creationism. It's in every part of his life. Sign up for my Patreon. I'd really appreciate that very much. It would mean so much to me. This is like a really precarious moment in history, in U.S. history, and for me personally. So it would mean a lot if you sign up for my Patreon. Check out cultarchive.org. I did a cult test, basically, where you can see if you're in a cult, and you can look at the historical tests of other groups that already went through this. Also, check out my merch. I have a whole bunch of really cool shirts and stuff. Really interesting. I would really appreciate that.
Okay, you went too fast. I think you misunderstand what?
I think you misunderstand, period.
Okay.
The rule of law is the Constitution.
No, you misunderstand.
Okay.
Which clearly says crimes are to be tried in the state.
Oh my God.
where they occur.
Okay.
The Constitution, which this judge took an oath to defend.
Like, the Constitution is more of a kind of outlines how it's generally going to operate and it's generally structured. And then Congress passes laws that form it out more completely, right? And the Supreme Court reviews those laws to make sure that they don't violate the Constitution in one way or another, or executive orders or whatever. Kent Hovind, I guess, doesn't believe that any laws apply at all? Question mark? He thinks that the only thing that applies to him or anybody is the Constitution and literally no other thing. By and large, especially the amendments to the Constitution, it's more of a permission slip to tell the government what they're not allowed to do. You are not allowed to search somebody without a good reason. You are not allowed to quarter troops in people's homes, the Third Amendment, I believe. You're not allowed to ban people from owning guns. You're allowed to regulate, but not allowed to fully ban. You're not allowed to ban speech, so on and so forth. It's a permission slip. And the laws more fully form out how our society is structured. It blows me away that he doesn't that he's even arguing this, but I don't know why. Like, why am I surprised by this? It's like he's applying all of the insane, nonsensical trash that he laid down about young earth creationism. He's applying all of that to the sovereign citizen movement and the government and everything. This is just crazy to me. He's talking to Joe Hovind, I believe, his wife at the time. Second wife was Mary Tocco. If you want to learn more about this, I'm going to be listening to a video with his second and third wife, Mary Tocco, and Cindy Lincoln is number 3. I'm going to be listening to that video sometime soon. This is them. On the top right is Mary Tocco, and on the bottom is Cindy Lincoln, who was body slammed by him and had him criminally charged for battery, I believe. Anyway, I'm going to be listening to this video from these two on Wednesdays and Thursdays, 10:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern. I do this kind of thing on my Unfiltered channel all the time, so keep a lookout.
About me that I believe are not true. And I guess I'm here because I see Cindy now, who I happen to know pretty well, in the same position as I am, only I am afraid she took a much worse, her time there was much worse than mine. I left before it got crazy. Unfortunately, she stuck around and she's been harmed and hurt deeply by what's going on there. I know Cindy's...
Anyway, that's Mary Tocco, and poor Cindy, man. I mean, both of these two people are complete nutcases, honestly. Mary Tocco is an anti-vax conspiracy theorist, and Cindy Lincoln is a young earth creationist, anti-gay, anti-LGBT, anything at all. I mean, just complete scumbags, both of them. But that doesn't justify being so terribly mistreated by Kent Hovind. And if you want to learn more about Kent Hovind and his belief system and the way that Dinosaur Adventureland operates and everything, you can check out my main channel. I'm releasing a series on him right now. Or you can go to cultarchive.org. This is my website that I designed. You can type in Hovind and pull it up. And this is basically a historical test to see how he ranks and how Dinosaur Adventureland ranks in how extreme it is as a cult. It is the maximum, most destructive cult that you can get, number 5. Oh, shoot, I gotta fix that. My UI is a little messed up. But here, take a look. Kent Hovind's Dinosaur Adventureland compound in rural Alabama represents one of the most extreme examples of Christian fundamentalist cult behavior in America. Founded by a convicted felon who served 9 years for tax fraud and was later convicted of domestic violence, the organization operates as an isolated compound where residents provide free labor, accept young earth creationist pseudoscience, embrace anti-government conspiracy theories, and submit to Hovind's absolute authority. Despite marketing itself as family-friendly creationist theme park, the 140-acre compound functions as an authoritarian community where Hovind lives in luxury, while residents live like crap, quote-unquote. That quote is actually from one of the previous residents. Where convicted pedophiles have been welcomed despite concerns for child safety, and where a child drowned in 2020. Because they don't have liability insurance, they don't have lifeguards. Kent Hovind's take on it is he wants to go back to a time when there weren't lifeguards, when people, sent their kids out to wander the countryside and not worry about if they were going to be okay anymore and stuff like that. So he doesn't believe in basically putting lifeguards out there to make sure that nobody drowns. He doesn't believe in that because that makes weak people. This kid was weak because he drowned. And this is natural selection, for lack of a better term, filtering out the weak. That's the kind of mindset Kent Hovind is in. Anyway, cultarchive.org, you can go through the whole historical breakdown if you want to see how he ranked 1 to 13 on the Fibonacci sequence. There's a reason I chose 1 to 13 on Fibonacci, because it shows more dramatic gaps. People are less likely to choose a 13 over an 8 because they feel the gap is larger. Anyway, I wrote this whole system. How centralized is the decision making in your group? 13 maximum. How structured is the chain of command in your group? 8. Very strong hierarchy. How narrow and specific is your group's central focus? Everything centers on one doctrine or person. How uniform are the beliefs and practices? 13. Identical beliefs, no deviation allowed. Kent Hovind founded Creation Science Evangelism in 1989 after obtaining a quote-unquote doctorate from Patriot University, an unaccredited diploma mill, which he uses to style himself Dr. Dino, despite having no legitimate scientific credentials. In 2001, he built Dinosaur Adventureland in his backyard in Pensacola, Florida, refusing to obtain building permits and claiming he followed church law rather than secular law. From 1999 to 2004, the operation generated over $5 million in revenue, but Hovind paid workers as missionaries rather than employees to evade payroll taxes, structured cash transactions to avoid reporting requirements, and never filed tax returns for 30 years. Anyway, check it out if you're interested. I mean, this dude is about as dirty as they come, disgusting. But he did form out a lot of the creationist, the young earth creationist arguments. And it's really interesting to kind of examine his beliefs and how he got to where he is ideologically. But yeah, tell me what you think in the comments.